Thank you and welcome everyone for joining our episode on building a new age learning culture. I have Nikesh Jain with me, who is the co-founder of Edurigo Technologies. Nikesh, welcome to the session.
Thanks, Priyanka. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we jump into the core of the episode, Nikesh, could you please tell us all more about yourself and Edurigo?
Sure, Priyanka. Uh, Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining this session. My name is Nikesh Jain. I'm co-founder and head of technology at Edurigo Technologies. I've been in software for almost 25, 26 years now. I started my career, in US. I worked for 7, 8 years in Silicon Valley. Worked for a couple of startups there. Came back to India in 2004, and then worked for companies like Oracle, SAP, Yahoo, America Online, and then before starting at Erigo, last 5, 6 years, I did two startups. I was in leadership position there. Both the companies, VP Engineering, both are fairly successful companies. iCertis and Aptus, now known as Conga. I was heading their engineering. And then 2 years ago, Priyanka, I started Edirigo, and there is a story behind that also. And I hope I get time to share that. So yeah, that's all about me, Priyanka.
Yeah. So, Nikesh, understanding your experiences so far, we now know that you have led many organizations and also the large-sized teams. So, could you please share your experiences and challenges around learning?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, it has been an interesting journey. And when I started Edirigo, of course, I was looking back all my 25 years of experience, like how learning was done 25 years ago, and then how it evolved. So, one of the experiences or challenges I've seen and I've observed, especially when I was in leadership position as well. Learning is seen as a side hustle, right? It is not part of the organization goal. In most of the cases, I'm not. I'm sure there are companies where learning is part of their culture already, but I'm talking about most of the places based on my experience. Learning is seen as a side hustle, so it is seen as a distraction to my regular work. So I'm doing something, and suddenly I've been asked to learn something, or finish a compliance course. So what happens, like when you have that kind of system in place, or that kind of culture or thinking, people are you have to force. It feels like a lot of time it felt like we were forcing people to learn, or when I was a learner, like I was forced to learn something. So you basically send people to in a conference room for 2 days, in some hotel conference room, and then bombard them with a lot of learning, whether they want it or not, right? So that is one challenge I have always seen. And then when learning is forced, you have to run behind people. And that one challenge I faced, especially since I became manager, like, because I would get emails from my HR, my leaders. And when I came to that position, I would get email from HR, Nikesh, 40% of your organization hasn't finished this, can you do that? Then I'm running behind my directors, and then asking them to run behind their managers. So you see this whole waste of energy, and it is something the learning had to be done. So why we had to run behind people? So that is one challenge, and we'll definitely discuss on how to overcome that, if there is a way to overcome that. Then the other challenge which I seen, and I link it to the learning culture as well. Uh, See, productivity loss when a new employee joins in the organization, and the kind of productivity loss we have, because that employee is not effective for a decent period of time. And in some organization, I've seen that period was 3 to 6 months, which is huge in my mind. All right. You hire somebody, you put so much effort, you brought them on board with so much effort, you spend money on hiring. Then of course you're paying them. They are supposed to make a difference, but by the time they come up to speed, in a situation where they can have some meaningful contribution, it's already 3 to 6 months past. So that's onboarding, what we call it, typically, right? So that KPI should be measured very closely, and I have seen that KPI is all over. So that is one challenge I faced leading organizations. The other thing which I will talk about is, like, as leaders or HR, especially the business leaders, I would say, do you have visibility into the skill gaps which are required in near future to meet your organization goals? That is one challenge, like, skill gap visibility. I have seen it all over. In fact, I would be honest, I had that, and I learned that, how to overcome that challenge. And I'll back this with some data. I think that then it will make more sense.
Yeah.
McKinsey did a survey around, I think 3 years ago, just before pandemic. In that survey, they found out that 90% of companies said they believe that they are going to have a meaningful skill gap in near future, which will impact their business goals. So then 90% of people said that. Only 16% people or companies said that they are fully prepared to handle that. So 90% people knew that they are going to have some skill gap in very near future, which will impact their goals, and only 16%, that is remaining 84%, did not know how to handle it, despite of knowing that there will be some gap. So that's scary, right? In the
Yeah.
same survey, Priyanka, they found out, and this is more frightening to me, uh, that 60% of business leaders said that they can't see an explicit connection between uh, their L&D spend and their organization goals. Right, you understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
60% of business function leaders said that they don't see, how is that spend on L&D is impacting their business goals. Now that is scary, because as business leader, if I'm not convinced about learning, I'm not gonna spend on that, and it becomes a vicious circle, right? So this two information, this, especially the second one, is really, really scary or frightening to me. The third, which is sort of, I faced, there's one way, like, I will try to link the skill gap again. The skill gap one, it comes naturally, like, I'm, as business leader, I'm seeing the environment, and then I can kind of anticipate or predict what's going to happen in near future. Like metaverse is one thing, right? Everybody's talking about
Yeah.
that. But there are times when, things change overnight, and then how do you handle that skill gap? And I'll give an example. I was with this company. I was heading engineering, and then an acquisition happened. We were a Microsoft heavy skills that time. The software was developed on Azure using all Microsoft technologies. Overnight, post that acquisition, I was told that I have to reskill everybody to Salesforce. Now think about it. I had hundreds of people, multi hundreds, right?
Yeah.
Overnight, how do I change that skill gap? And suddenly, this Microsoft skill is, because we were shutting down that unit that time, that became useless. Now I cannot let go this hundreds of people and then rehire another 300, 400 people to continue my Salesforce journey. So that skill gap, it was beyond me. Like, it happened just, and then luckily, we did certain things, and then we overcame very quickly. And one more thing you need to understand here, especially for product companies which are building enterprise products, the domain expertise is more important than the skill. So for me, that Microsoft skill was not, it was important, but same time, over a period of time, like 5, 10 years, these people had developed the domain skill of that domain, like contract lifecycle management and other things. Like, think about Ariba, think about SAP. That domain is very important, the domain knowledge. Now, I can reskill, I can hire a new guy, but where will I bring that domain knowledge, right? So that becomes a very tricky situation. So that one challenge I faced, Priyanka. So I shared, I think, some of the challenges and some of the experiences. Over to you.
Yeah. So, Nikesh, based on the information you just shared, I have a question here. When you look at the companies, what do you see is usually missing in, aspect of learning?
Good point. So see, few things which I feel are missing is, first thing, the learning is not seen as a strategic function, the biggest thing, right? I see that long-term growth orientation view is missing, and that view naturally favors learning. So I see that long-term growth orientation view is missing. That's one, right? The second thing which I feel is missing, learning is always an afterthought. So I've seen leaders reacting to an event, rather than being proactive. So it's that proactiveness, I would say, is missing. And third thing, which I think is the most important, and I think I'll spend some more time on this, is senior leadership. In my mind, I mean, they are responsible for building that culture and learning as a culture. The senior leadership has to, or leadership have to play the role model. So they need to talk about it, about learning, skill upgradation in their town halls, in their meetings. So it has to start from C level, percolate down to middle management and lower management, all over. They need to talk about it. And I'll back again this with an interesting observation, which I came across. So I was with Yahoo. This is year 2012-13, I believe. I was a senior manager there, and in my chain, I was reporting to a vice president in engineering, and this gentleman was really smart guy, an MS in terms of graduate education, very busy guy. One evening, I just saw him with couple of books, math books, mathematics books, and I asked him, what are you doing with these books? So then I learned that he's attending evening classes in one of the universities. I forgot the name, and he was taking those mathematics courses. Now a VP engineering who is so capable is taking a course, and that course was not 2 days or 3 days course. It was like 6 months program, and I was wondering why he was doing that. Then I asked him. I mean, what I learned, that in Yahoo, he was managing. He was part of that platform group. So he was managing quite a few scientists as well, and they were writing all the machine learning models and all that. To manage those people, I think he found that gap in himself, that he needed to know some of the mathematics which is required for machine learning. Machine learning are all about maths, right? Deep maths. So he was learning that. Now when I see a person at his level, spending time, his own time, bringing himself up to speed, learning new things, you are setting up a role model. He became my role model. And
Yeah.
as a senior manager, I said, I went and I shared with a lot of people in his staff meeting. I talked about this. So that's something, Priyanka, I feel is missing. Like those role models, we need those more and more those role models in the organization. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this insight, Nikesh. Now, coming to the core of the episode, according to you, what is the new age learning culture, and how to build it?
Very interesting. Yeah. So I think this is the topic of the day. So I'll share my views, and with all the disclaimer, these are my opinions and based on the experience I have, and open to, of course, suggestions and discussions on this. Uh, so one thing which I think, to build a new age of learning, we have to, like, in learning, we have to unlearn a lot. I think we have learned over a 30 years a lot of things, and unfortunately, this is my observation. The world has evolved in last 30 years, but the way we learn hasn't evolved. Honestly speaking, I still see, and I'll share a lot of anecdotes. I'll share a lot of stories here. That hasn't changed. So we have to unlearn a lot of things. That forced to attend culture is thing of past. Your generation, so I still consider my generation, the previous generation. I think your generation doesn't like it, and it's not going to like it, and the
Yeah.
generation after you will actually hate it more. Like, you can't force, I can't force my kids to learn anything. If they're motivated, they will learn. So I think that forced to learn corporate culture has to go away. We need to provide people flexibility, concept of just in time learning, which is very popular in sales domain, and I'll touch upon that as well. I should learn when I want to learn. I should learn
Yeah.
uh, where I am. I should learn how much I want to learn, right? So I think we that is one thing. I think we need to, that culture has to be built, and then people need to sort of the content delivery. So there's a lot of focus on content. The delivery is still sort of in the old fashioned way. So that delivery has to change for this, and I'll touch upon that in a bit. The second thing which I'll talk about is, like, we are getting into a phase of active learning, right? What is active learning? Like, the gone those days where, the learning was passive learning, like, your learner is listening to a trainer for 3 hours or 10 hours, with all due respect to trainers, right? The reason I am saying that the attention span has gone down. So, as a learner, as a new age learner, I want to turn to, first thing, I want flexibility, but same time I want help as well. But I want to turn for that help when I need that,
Yeah.
right? So, think about it, like, you go to a shopping mall and there's a sales guy is always behind you. You won't be comfortable,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yeah.
want that, you want to call for that help when you need it. Something similar. So,
Yes.
give me my
Yeah.
learning. I'll keep learning, and I'll come to you for some help. I'll share one small story here. So, I've been teaching a kid. She was in eighth standard when I started teaching her math. She is in the neighborhood. Her parents help us, so, I'm just helping her out. So, her mother came to me and said, can I help her? And I started calling her. So, like, I'm sitting right now here. I would just know, during the day I work here, so I call her and she would sit behind me, and then, just work for 3 hours. And I would just give her, basically what I'm trying to do, or I tried to do, and I think, the approach has worked out. I told her that book is her friend. So, I asked her to read that book, math book, all the theory part. Then there are a lot of examples. I've asked her to do those examples. And then, in those examples, if she is not able to understand something or not able to solve some example, the solution is there. Even if she has problem, I'm sitting there. She would just ask me, right? So, in the same time, I'm doing assessment as well. So, I give her in the exercises, I just tick marks certain questions, just do it. And then, if you need help, come to me. So, most of the time, 80% of the time, she would just finish those things, and she will turn to me when she needs help, right? So she has that flexibility. She can decide what she wants to learn, and then, I'm always available for help. So that approach has worked. And again, if
Yeah.
somebody is curious what are the results, well, just to share, not boasting, her result got doubled. Like, she had, like, whatever percentage she
Oh.
had, it got doubled, the in the final exam. So that approach worked, right? And I did not have to spend a lot of time as well. So that is one thing.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I would say, like, whatever worked yesterday may not work today, and will not work tomorrow for sure. So the same thing, like, what I said, like, we have to unlearn a lot of things, and our delivery has to change. Content delivery has to change. Then personalization of learning. So, every learner, I think, I've seen people talk about it a lot. I've not seen this so much in implementation, that personalization of learning. Can you create different learning uh, path, if you call it, for your learners? Everybody learns differently. If I give you same lesson to you, I take the same lesson, you have different preferences, I have different preferences. So, and you have different goals, I have different goals, right? So, keeping those in mind, that personalization of learning is very critical. uh, so that is one more thing, which is very important. And then, as business leaders, as HR leaders, we need to support that view. Then, this is my favorite part, and I think this should be the in my opinion, this should be the core of this discussion. The corporate learning is not L&D's job. That's the statement which I keep making, and I know a lot of L&D people will suddenly hate me for making that statement. So let me put it differently. I said your corporate learning is not L&D's job. Well, what I'm trying to say, L&D is everybody's job, right? So, L&D, the way it is run today, it is a centralized organization, and that organization is responsible for, delivering, taking care of the L&D needs of the organization. So everything is centralized. I think that view has to change. This responsibility, in my mind, has to be delegated to the business leaders, the function leaders, what we call it. And that is already happening. I'll give you an example of sales organizations. Now, if you see sales organizations, the learning for sales has taken a different route altogether. The CROs and the sales leader there have taken that responsibility. So when a new salesperson joins, who L&D is not typically in the mature sales organization, L&D is not taking care of their learning. The sales organization itself has built a system around it. Like, they will make sure that they are teaching the product nuance to their new guy, the sales pitch. They're assessing, the sales manager is assessing the sales pitch, and tools are there to support it. EduReview is one of those tools which very well support these aspects. The point I'm trying to make, sales has already taken over. Similarly, I think, different functions, it should be delegated to different function. And I'm not saying L&D role is finished. L&D still play the main role of facilitating all that, right? But the responsibility is delegated, and the outcome will be different. Now, let me back this with an analogy. Like, if you think about it, 30 years ago, the software was done in a very monolithic way, right? What was happening, like, you have a big software which is getting built in 9 months. So you are dividing that cycle into smaller chunks, which is like 3 months you do development, 3 months you do design, 3 months, sorry, 3 months you do design, 3 months you do development, and 3 months you do testing. That's waterfall method. That waterfall has changed. So the way we have evolved there, and we
yeah,
have come to agile now, same way, this has to change. Now, talking about giving this responsibility to business leaders, let me just note a touch base on that McKinsey finding as well. McKinsey, the 60% of leaders said that they don't see an explicit linkage between the L&D spend and the organization impact it is making, or the outcome it is making, right? That learning. Now, when you delegate that responsibility, sales already happening, because in sales we are able to link the learning to the revenue. If the
yeah,
sales personnel is not up to speed in time, he or she will not be able to make the sales call. If she is not making the sales call, the revenue won't come in. Direct impact. That's why there's a
yeah,
need for us to bring those salespeople to speed quickly. Now, what I'm saying, isn't that true for other organizations as well? So I'll take software example. In software, apart from sales, you have engineering, then you have implementation, then you have support. These are three different functions, typically led by different leaders. So I used to be the engineering leader most of my time, right? I did little bit of implementation as well. But so let's talk about engineering. So when I hire people, if these people, I'm hiring them for a purpose, right?
yeah,
There is a I'm hiring them because I want to. Sales ask me to build certain features because they want to, bid for a project, or they want to deliver a
yeah,
feature which they have committed to one of the customers. Now I hired 50 people, and now it takes me to bring this 50 people. It takes me about 3 months to bring these people up to speed.
yeah,
Revenue loss. First thing, my hiring
yeah,
cost. Second thing, 3 months these people are not doing anything. That's the opportunity cost. In some cases, I might miss those deadlines. If I miss those deadlines, the revenue will be gone. I won't be able to bid,
yeah,
or I won't be able to demo in a very effective way. My sales will not be able to demo that unbaked feature, or whatever you want to call it, in a very effective way. That opportunity is lost. So there's a linkage.
yeah,
There's a direct linkage in that as well. So I saw some organization, where this challenge was there, and then this is how I solved it. And I'll come to implementation and support in a bit, and I'll link those two as well to the revenue. Here for engineering, when I saw that impact, I lost a project actually, uh, because of that. I mean, I lost it in terms of, like, I had to send that project to a different territory, because I was not able to bring my people up to speed very quickly, hire and bring those people. So in this organization, this challenge was always there. The KPI was 3 to 6 months. So because the learning setup was not there, and I took that responsibility. I did not go to my L&D. And then, as and when people were joining, I started, from the experts within, I started doing Friday brown bag sessions mandatorily. So every Friday, I would
yeah,
invite one of the experts. We would do a Friday brown bag session. This expert would talk about either technology or the domain, because this company was domain heavy company. Before you can write code, a single line of code, you needed to understand the domain completely. Otherwise, no, you will write crap. right? So this domain people will come and then talk about that. This They will talk about technology, and then every Friday we would do that, and then within like few weeks we had good material available to us, right? And we created a sort of, you can say, onboarding program, engineering onboarding program. And then every new joining who would come, we would assign those programs to that, and we would assign a buddy. So this new person is going through those things, so we don't have to repeat that. And they're still participating in the new Friday Brownback sessions. And then as a leader, I was VP engineering, but I was the host of that session, because whenever people see a senior person is running something, they see the importance, unfortunate part of it.
Yeah.
So people would,
Yeah.
my attendance would be very heavy, right? And then
Yeah.
I would talk about it. In my all hands, I would say, everybody has to attend. Last week, if attendance goes down, I would hold directors responsible why their team is not joining. Now everybody has work, of course, we understand, but you got to come to those sessions, and then that's how you build a culture, right? So we did that over a period of time. Of course, I was very busy, I was traveling all the time, so I handed it over to one of my directors, but we did not stop that. And then on top of that, what I used to do, I used to conduct a monthly meeting with all the new joiners. So we used to have like double digit number people would join every month. So I would meet them every month with my partners, and one of the questions I would ask, the onboarding experience, how was it? Initial days I got feedback that they did not know this, they did not know that, a lot of things. So their learning was like haywire, and that's why the 3 to 6 months of a period to get them onboarded. But we were able to bring that to literally weeks. So within a week, basically these people were able to be effective. At least they were able to fix some defects. And we do this at Edirigo. Edirigo, if somebody joins, within 7 days people will start fixing defects. So that's
Yeah.
that. So like so engineering functions also should link this to revenue, right? The second, implementation, when does it happen? When the software is built, the product is built, and then it is in the market, you sell it to a customer, and then you understand the customer requirements, configuration, customization, and you implement it for that customer, that implementation. And this implementation itself is, at times, this is like 2 years project, right? So the P or for the complex project like SAP, Aribas of the world, contract life like CLMs, they take time. So I've seen
Yeah.
projects getting failed or customer going away because the implementation was not done successfully. And the most of the time, implementation, to do implementation, those implementation people, the engineers, they need to know the product in in and out, right? If they know the
Yeah.
product in and out, that's the only way they will be able to map those customer requirements to the product. So same challenge. The churn is there in that organization as well. There are new people joining in now. For a complex product, it takes a while for us to learn, right? So how do you bring them up to speed? So if you're not bringing them up to speed very quickly, if you don't have that culture, that processes in place, your implementation org will be weak, and then eventually your implementation will go southwards. And then I've seen, as I said, I've seen big companies taking away their money because implementation did not happen. In some cases, like implementations
Yeah.
are typically fixed bid. So you say you will deliver this in 6 months, and now you have to throw bodies at it because your team is weak. So again, think about it. I just linked it to the revenue, opportunity loss, projects going away, image, everything. So here also implementation org also, if business leader understands that, so they will think about it, like there's an opportunity loss if their organization is not ready for this. And I'm trying to link it to the learning of that org. Let's talk about support. Now, support is your first line of defense all the time,
Yeah.
right? The product is built, it is implemented, and it is running in production, right? Now there are issues, and every product,
Yeah.
will have issues at some point of time. Support org, again, think about it. You hired 20 new people in support. Same problem. You have to bring them up to speed, and before they know the product. First thing, they need to know the product. Second thing, they need to know those implementation as well. Every implementation is
Yeah.
different. If I'm getting a call from American Express, The problem could be very different than I'm getting a call from a manufacturing company, and both are using the same platform, because the use case is different, domain is different. So your support, people have to learn the product plus this as well very quickly, and they need to be effective. And again, if support doesn't know all the things, they will fall back eventually on engineering. Ultimately everybody will fall back on engineering, and this I've seen an optimum number of times, right? And but by the time you fall back to engineering, it's been a month. And I remember very recently in one of the jobs, a customer, a finance customer, a big finance, a top Fortune 100 companies, they literally said we are going away. They decided not to renew the product. So this issue happened sometime in September, and their renewal was due in sometime in December, and support was not able to solve that problem for a good month time. And they involved engineering, but somewhere everything got lost, and then the customer just said we are not renewing. It was a huge opportunity. Then it got escalated, it came to us, we were all involved, and somehow we saved that account. But and I'm saying, I'm not saying it was not my problem. I think my team also did not do a good job there of handling that situation. But again, the learning, when I look back at that example, I can clearly tell that it was a learning problem all over. Learning in terms of soft skills, in terms of product skills, everywhere. And we would have lost that multi-million dollar account if we had not solved that problem in time. Again, I just linked the support issue, support learning, to revenue. Right now, again, I'm going back to McKinsey example. 60% business leaders, I bet the 60% leaders were engineering, implementation, equivalent of them, engineering, implementation, and support. The remaining 40% were good salespeople who said that we can see the explicit connections, right? So because sales really understands this world, right? They understand if they don't bring, like in Edirigo, for example, when you came on board, we made sure that you're up to speed in like literally 2 or 3 days, so that you can start
Yeah.
doing your work. Same goes for other salespeople
Yeah.
also came on board. So in Edirigo, and honestly speaking, because of that learning, we take care of everybody, right? The final thought I have in this, like to build that culture, we talked about certain things like senior leadership has to play role model, etc. And then they need to keep talking about learning and upgrading skills in their town halls, different meetings, so that culture is built, right? And then the final thing, and I think this is also very critical, you got to link the learning to your performance management system. Every company has a performance management system, PMS we call it. It's part of the HRMS, right? You need to link that learning to this, in terms of your promotions, in terms of your variable pay, or whatever that is, right? Some way you have to figure out to link it, because it is important, so that people understand that this is required. So once it is linked to PMS, I think it becomes very explicit, that my promotion will not happen till. So again, remember, you're not forcing it. You're just telling people that in a very humble way that you need to, if you want to get promoted, you need to develop certain skills, then you get promoted, and that learning path is linked to your PMS. So automatically people understand that. And then the PMS also says to the learning systems, like hey, you have this kind of gaps and all that. So that linkage, when it happens, that visibility is there, and automatically uh, that culture will slowly come into play, because now there is one more variable which is linked to it. So yeah, Priyanka, long answer, but I hope I made some sense here. And for me, I think the most important thing, if I can repeat that, I think the L&D is not L&D's job. L&D is everybody's job. All the function leaders need to take responsibility. They can take help from L&D, but it's their responsibility. And once they keep talking about it, automatically the entire organization will understand. And I gave you that Yahoo VP engineering example. I think let's just keep in mind that the example was set that way. All right, Priyanka, all
Thank you for
yours.
sharing this valuable and detailed information, Nikesh. Now, that's the last question that I have. Nikesh, you mentioned that learning needs to be adapted, with advanced techniques. So, what is the role of technology in building a new age learning culture?
Very interesting question. Thanks for asking that, Priyanka. Let me ask you one thing. Do you use Instagram?
Yes.
Right? So I don't use it. I
Yeah.
will be honest. I am not a big Instagram person. I don't use Facebook as well. But I'm different that way because I'm not saying I'm old, but I just don't use that. I'm a primary LinkedIn guy. So, but think about all the majority of people. Today's generation is Instagram generation, and
Yeah.
so when it comes to technology, this is my observation, and the experience we are giving them is non-Instagram, and they don't like it. So they
Yeah.
today's generation, right? We are giving them experience, the content delivery experience, which is 30-year old.
Yeah.
So and the world has evolved, the technology has evolved. So today we need to change that experience. That's the most important thing, right? Whether So I think the personal and professional space has sort of come together now. So this thought process that my professional tools can behave differently than my personal tool, I think gone out those days. So I remember I don't want to take that name, like one of the top notch European ERP company. Well, I said it. Their UI is like mainframe UI in places. There was a certain components were like mainframe UI. So one day I remember I wanted to generate my payslip. I logged in into that ERP, and the experience I got was like I've logged in into a COBOL system, and this is not long ago. This is like very recent, in the last 4 or 5 years, right? So that has to change. Now I understand, it definitely for big organizations, it's very difficult to change that experience very easily. So same way, like I'll share why did I start Edirigo. So Edirigo honestly started for a purpose. I had hung my boots. I didn't want to work for corporate. This is like 2 years ago. I
Yeah.
left my previous organization, and then I was just doing nothing during pandemic in 2020. One of the NGOs I used to work with, they came to me and they said, Nikesh, kids are suffering. Can you solve this problem using technology? So I said, let me see. And I had some LMS experience. So I had seen a lot of LMS. So I knew this problem has to be solved during pandemic. If you want to do online learning, the LMS is a solution. So I started
Yeah.
doing research. This is back in, let me tell you the exact time as well. This is back in September 2020, I think, around that time. So I looked at, I googled, and then I looked at least top 5 Indian companies, and same time top 5 US companies in terms of learning management system. And I took
Yeah.
some demos, and I already had my experience, and I was disappointed to see that experience because I was thinking of building for kids, right? So I said, where is the fun
Yeah.
element? Where is that? Uh, Everybody was throwing those videos and all those things. I said, this is not done. Same time, coincidentally, my daughter, who was studying in New York for one of the universities there, during pandemic, we had flown her to Bangalore, and she was taking online classes. And her college, which is one of the top-notch, top 5 colleges in US in design field, she was using an LMS, very famous LMS. I won't name them. And I looked at that as well, and I felt like, man, this is not done. I mean, it's confusing. A lot of things were confusing, a very age old. So that again, coming back to this point, like that experience has to change, the generation has changed. So if you want to adopt to this new age learning, you want to adopt to that new age learning culture, the first thing you have to change that experience. So Edirigo, after seeing that experience, same time, again, coincidentally, one of the HR friend in one of the companies, she was looking for an LMS. And I said, well, there are two people looking for something. So why don't I build? And I asked them both, can I build something for you? And they asked me, how soon you
Yeah.
can build it? I said, 3 months. I literally said that, and they were surprised. And I said, "Yeah, I can do that." So I went to one of my friends. He gave me a seed team of 5 people, and literally in 3 months, we built something. I had some ideas, and we built, and we got both the parties, NGO, all this, kids and teachers for teachers training, and then we launched. I think we started the development in October 2020, and January, we started doing trial runs. So and then we kept all those things, and since then, like we are just building, and then we're learning more and building more experiences. So the experience building is the key here, Priyanka. The second thing, I talked about that monolithic learning example. Nobody wants to watch
Yeah.
3 hours video. Nobody wants to sit through
Yeah.
entire day of training. I have done those training
Yeah.
many number of times, and I can tell you my experience. You forget within 30 days whatever you learned. You just
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah.
So the learning has to be bite size. So for that, the content delivery has to change, and the only way, one way, you take me through the bust of that learning, I'm fine with that. But then you have to follow up. There has to be long tail of that learning. So lot of re-engagement, lot of refreshment of that learning. So the tools which you are using, the LMS tools or learning experience platform which you are using, they need to support that. Like Edirigo does it very beautifully. So we have a feature where you can develop a nice storyline, and then you can tell that storyline. That storyline is uh, small cards, literally, like we call them flashcards. And then you can just say every flashcard has to be sent to the learner every morning. So did you know, kind of thing. I get a notification on my mobile in the morning, and I say, oh yeah. And you can send questions. So I remember one of the companies, they asked me this. It's an airline company. They said, we want to send our pilots. The pilot is all about SOPs, right? They need to follow those SOPs. So their learning is very different. So the L&D manager asked me, like, can your system do this, like, where we want to send a tip to we want to send a question, one or two questions to the pilots every morning. And we said, yeah, we can do that, right? So those
Yeah.
kind of things, like long tail, which I'm talking about. So the bite size has to be there. Then as I said, your experience has to be Instagram. Your tools are to be like Instagrams of the world. So when I in the evening, when I'm playing with my Instagram, I go to bed in the morning when I'm taking my learning, it is same experience, right? So I appreciate that. So it has to be available on mobile. So technology, I think, gives you all that. So your learning is available on mobile. So when I'm traveling, when I'm sitting in a plane, it is available to me. Instead of watching a Netflix movie, I can just go through some of the learnings there. Or when I'm traveling to offices, like people travel for hours in Bangalore, like places in Pune.
Yeah.
When you're sitting in the train, can you train or buses or whatever, you can go through those learnings. And then the future, if you talk about it, like, I think the tools wise, I think technology wise, I think metaverse will play a big role. We have already taken a lot of steps in that direction. So Edirigo is an MLXP, what we call it. Credit to our new sales head, Priyanka Bhandari, who just invented this term, MLXP. So we are
Yeah.
not an LMS, we are not an LXP, we are a metaverse based learning experience platform. So you have a lot of 3D games, you have a lot of metaverses. You go in there, you have social learning, you have collaborative learning. So multiple people can get into that metaverse together and solve a problem. Now that's fun. Team
Yeah.
building exercises are happening. I'm talking to people in a metaverse. Like when I'm bored with my learning, I can, like, we take a break, right? You go to a break room and play foosball and TT and all those things. uh, you know uh, you can do the same thing in metaverse also, like, get into a metaverse, play a 3D game with your friends, play football, play tennis, play badminton, and all those games, play basketball. Basically take a break and invite people and do that. You're sitting in, you're doing a Friday brown bag session. We used to do that, actually. So you have a meeting going on, or Friday brown bag session going on. It sometimes become monotonous. So how do you bring that engagement? So when I'm delivering my lecture, let's say, even if a half an hour lecture or some meeting, I can just throw some questions and ask people, hey, take those questions on your mobile now. So real time
Yeah.
learning right there, real time engagement. People do that now. That's very effective. So technology, so Edirigo supports that. Like, you can just create few a quiz and give it to your learner, and they will just, on their mobile, sitting in a conference room. You can just release a learning and say, hey, answer the first question, answer the second question, and all that, and everybody can see their answers. So engagement, a soft competition, and all those things are there. And then final is, you got to empower using technology. you empower your people. So once technology is driving it, people are deciding, same thing which I talked about in the beginning, like let people decide when they want to learn, what they want to learn, how they want to learn, where they want to learn, all those things. So basically you're empowering your people, how they want to learn it, where they want to learn it. So technology plays a big role. I'm not saying technology will replace the face-to-face training and all those things. I'm definitely not saying that. Hybrid is the future, but technology plays a big role. And
Yeah.
definitely Eddie Rigo is there to play that role. Vinka, over to you.
Yeah, that was a great insight that you just shared with us. So, thank you, Nikesh, for sharing your invaluable time with us. It was great knowing your perspective and also the challenges you experienced being a leader. It was great knowing that, and also to know how you dream a new age learning culture should be framed. So thank you again for your time. And thank you everyone for joining us. See you all in our upcoming episodes. See you all soon. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Take care. Bye bye.